Okay, so this is one of those pieces that I need to write, but I don't particularly want to share. But that's not the deal, is it? You see, the agreement a couple of weeks ago was that I would be honest about what it feels like to be a pastor in a pandemic, but honest also about just how I feel. It's the why questions that I find the hardest. Not when I ask them, because I have become far too adept at deflecting that particular searchlight when it shines into the awkward places of my world. No, it's the why questions when they are asked by our resident 4-year-old, because those ones deserve something more of a response than a bland knock away down the road. It was one of those whys that started this whole thing off. Why is there a virus? It was a simple enough question in the mouth of a then 3 3/4-year-old, but by the time it had settled into the ears and the minds of a 58-year-old theologian, it had taken on layers of complexity, which means that she's still basically waiting for an answer. I am working on it, and I'll let you know if my ponderings take ever something that forms a credible response. But today there was another why. And this time, as the film star says, it's personal. Today we celebrated a 4th birthday in our house. And we had a really good day in very strange circumstances. We were okay with the "we will have a party when the virus is gone" position, but there remained the "can I go to play with my friends?" Then the pause, and then the question, why? Why can't I go anywhere? And even though the question was directed at an immensely wise grandma, I found myself swallowing hard. You see, I suppose in my naivety I'd hoped that said 4-year-old would simply have accepted this as a normal kind of birthday. I mean, she really didn't have very much to compare it with. But it wasn't, and she didn't. Why can't I go anywhere? And suddenly, for me, the gloss was taken off the day. Now, the question was answered splendidly by the aforementioned wise one, and the business of the day quickly moved to pre-bed bath story prayers and songs. But the question lingered because, in a way, it's the one we're all grappling with. Social distancing doesn't come naturally to a species created for community. We are supposed to mingle. We are supposed to share space together. And as we are in lockdown, as we are isolated from one another, there is a sense of loss that we begin to feel. And we know, of course, the scientific, the medical, and indeed the political reasons for our current position. Of course we do. But let's not pretend that it sits naturally with us. And in the question of our little one and the embryonic sensation that begins to form somewhere deep down inside my own self, I know that this sense of unnatural isolation is going to have an impact over time. We are not made for this. Yes, there is that once daily exercise, but here the government have all but achieved what they needed to achieve. To set within us a recognition that to venture beyond the front door is no longer a right, but should be considered a privilege. Soon we will, and perhaps will rightly, feel a tad guilty when we walk down the path and into the vast panorama of our home street. Why can't I go anywhere? Today that is a reasonable question with probably a reasonable explanation. But roll forward a few weeks. By then maybe the question will be more angst-filled and have an undertone of vitriol about it. I'm being incarcerated rather than I'm being protected. And my sense is that we need to recognise the potential of that mentality before it becomes my reality. Because that way I will be more able to deal with the imbalance in my being when the imbalance becomes my being. Why can't I go anywhere? In truth, because I am being kept safe and can keep others safe too. I am not stuck at home. I have the privilege of being safe at home. One day we will go places again. I say that to my family, but I also say it to my camper van parked across the road looking very glum. But for now, we stay here. Because that makes sense. It keeps us safe. It keeps others safe. Stay safe. Stay at home if you can. And stay close to God.